Joining me now is Dave Wasserman. He is a senior editor and elections analyst for the Cook Political Report. And Dave, we are glad to have you with us because I want to get your insights on the potential impact of this Trump sweeping agenda bill. Who is going to be talking about it when it comes to the races of 2026? Will it be Democrats who are fighting against it or Republicans defending it? What's your take?
Look at the impact it's already had. Passage of this legislation was swift, but it was also stressful. It required a lot of strong arming. And we've already seen several swing district Republicans, including Don Bacon from Nebraska in the House, Tom Tillis in the Senate from North Carolina, decide to retire rather than running for re-election, having to defend this piece of legislation. And that's a telltale sign of a party that's spent its political capital is when you see those swing district members leaving. It's not all that dissimilar from this point in 2017, which led into the blue wave of 2018. And the oldest rule in politics is that anger is a stronger motivator than love. Democrats are going to be running on the same message they did 8 years ago, which is that Republicans have sought to kick millions of Americans off their health care plans. And it's going to be really hard at this point for Republicans to protect their House majority. The Senate's a different story just by virtue of the seats that are up for grabs.
And when you referenced health care, let me ask you about the Medicaid changes. And it appears those are going to be, already are, major talking point for Democrats, in some ways giving Democrats a message. And they certainly talked a lot about health care on their road back to taking the majority in 2018. Now, you wrote about the echoes of 2018 in one of your recent columns. How do you see that reflected in what we could watch in 2026?
Well, all Democratic ad makers have to do is swap out pre-existing conditions for closures of rural hospitals, Medicaid cuts, and frame it as a tax cut for the wealthy at the expense of the poorest Americans. And Democrats are already outraged at a lot of actions this administration has taken. That's shown up in the turnout patterns we've seen in everything from special elections in Florida to the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race. I think we're likely to see it in Virginia and New Jersey this fall. And it's really hard to change that narrative. Now, keep in mind, 8 years ago, Republicans did not succeed at repealing and replacing Obamacare. This time around, they've passed sweeping legislation that Democrats can point to as having imminent consequences for millions of Americans. And that is going to be hard for Republicans to overcome with their argument that this represents a tax cut that will provide relief for millions of Americans, especially homeowners paying high state and local taxes.
Let's drill down a little into one of the districts that I know you've been following. That's California 22, and it's David Valadao. His district has nearly 40% of adults there receiving Medicaid or similar coverage. He won re-election by about 6 points in 2024, and you have the seat characterized as lean Republican. So how do you see the Medicaid question playing out there politically?
Yeah, this is a classic case where a Republican, is cross-pressured because they're in a swing district with hundreds of thousands of very low-income constituents who rely on government services such as Medicaid and food stamps. In fact, this is the Republican-held district with the highest Latino percentage, I think, except for one in Texas, in the country. And when you take a look at David Valadao in particular, he's someone who at times has crossed Trump. He voted to impeach Trump several years ago. And Democrats have struggled to defeat him because he comes across as a moderate. But in each one of these districts, Democrats are going to be able to claim that the Republican provided the decisive vote to pass this sweeping bill. And that could be devastating considering the unpopularity we're seeing for it in the polls.
And when you look at the landscape, when we're talking about a wave that could happen, what the movement is. We know there are roughly 18 toss-up seats because of the way redistricting and how districts are drawn. And that's roughly about the same amount as Republicans had. And there are only 70 seats that make up the sweeping battleground. That's out of 435. So how does that compare to a typical year? And do you think this is heading toward a 2018 style wave, or will it be much narrower than that?
Well, keep in mind, we don't have a whole lot of data yet district to district. We're not seeing a lot of public polling. There's not a lot of private polling because candidates are just getting up and running. But if we were to superimpose some of the turnout patterns we're already seeing in state legislative races onto the battle for Congress next year, we could see a lot of districts in the likely R or lean R column that get even more precarious for Republicans. Heck, there were even some districts that were rated as safe for Republicans at this point in 2017 that ended up being very close or even flipping to Democrats in 2018. And so Democrats are really beating the bushes for candidates, even in reach districts. And we're likely to see, I think, a number of those toss-ups break in one direction. Keep in mind, Democrats only need to flip 3 seats to win back the majority. So whereas they won 40 seats to get to 235 in 2018, they'd only need to flip 20 seats to get to 235 this time.
There's a lot of math involved. We have a long way to go, but you've given us some interesting tea leaves. Dave Wasserman, thank you so much. Appreciate your expertise.
Thanks, Kelly.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.